from above.
Hello YouTube and welcome back to World Flads. This is Ace of Spades, this is Challenge Flads, and today is the 50th Ace of Spades video that I have released. So it seems fitting somewhat that Challenge Flads would go back in time to the beta. This is 0.75 and the challenge today is not so much can I kill a certain number of people, can I grab the intel a certain number of times. The challenge today is to try and determine with perspective what the main issue is regarding how Jagex have taken this game that you're looking at now and they've moved it into what we know as 1.0. Okay, that's probably the best way to do it. I'm going to refer to them as 0.75 and 1.0 just so we can discern them. Now, as you can see from this game, it's a pretty basic game, but this is where it all started. I mean, the idea behind things like Minecraft, for example, all very basic. It's just it depends on where you want to take it. Now, Jagex themselves bought this game and they took it into OpenGL, which is a different style of game creation from the voxel base that this is. This is pure voxel, I believe. And what they did was they decided to do something that they could market. Okay, so as you can see from this game, it doesn't look like something that you'd easily market. Now, that's not to take away from the gameplay, okay? Because on a very basic level, I truly believe that's what was done. It was made for a mass audience. This game is made for people that like playing the game, if that makes any sense. And that's fine, but I don't think you could market it. Now, the problem that a lot of people seem to have, and I've had a lot of conversations about this, especially with people like Ruben McCork and the Grandmaster, for example. I should also thank him for absolutely whooping my ass in a team deathmatch on here. The game styles are pretty different with regards to how you go about killing people, and we were playing TDM, and a lot of it's not done ADS, a lot of it's done using the reticle, and you've got to be very accurate and very fast, and I really am not that quick at this, and he was, and he basically kicked my ass. So what I want to try and get across in this whole video is not so much is this a better game, because you've got to try and get round the fact that this is where the game came from. This 1.0 came from this. So you can't say, is this better, is 1.0 better. 1.0 came from this. But the reasons that people are angry, right, in my opinion, when Jagex bought this, like I say, they released it for a mass market. Now, they also had a classic mode, which we now know this particular 0.75 is classic mode, okay? They had that in the background already. They were working on it. So when they released Ace of Spades, it came out with all the new modes that we know now, like Diamond Mine, for example. Capture the Flag obviously wasn't. TDM wasn't. But the more sort of flashy game styles, and that took away completely from what this is. I mean, the pretense is still the same. I mean, you can still do building, you still shoot things, but what they took away was what the game was and what the game meant to a lot of people. Now, before I played 0.75, I'd seen a few videos about it, and we shouldn't concentrate on graphics, okay? Because in my opinion, 1.0 looks a lot better, and that's just my personal opinion. That's not to take away from the charm of this game, of course, because if you look at it, it's sweet's a condescending word, so that's not the right word, but it's a very charming looking game, isn't it? And I can fully understand why people were able to play it on computers that didn't have either dedicated graphics or were using older spec PCs, because it is a very simple pretense around the graphics, and the main gameplay is made up firstly by the community, and secondly by the way you want to approach it. Now in Ace of Spades, you're very forced in 1.0. You're very forced into how you're going to play the game, and that sort of stems from firstly the game modes, but also the fact that you can't alter anything. Where 0.75 had its advantages was that you could have your own custom server. Now they're good and bad, regardless of people saying that they want them. It can lead to problems, but I think ultimately it will be nice to see custom servers and hosted servers implemented back into this. Even if they're only using the OpenGL style from 1.0, I think it would be a great advantage, because firstly it's giving back to the players that played the beta. It's giving them back firstly their freedom to dictate what they saw fit as a game mode, but it's more than that as well, and this is just going back to where the problem really lies with how the release of Ace of Spades was done, 1.0 was done. Now, as a product of 1.0, I am entirely happy with the game as it is. I did not play the beta beforehand. However, it does strike me as being completely understandable that people would be so unhappy after playing this as the beta in the testing phase and then going into something else that was completely different. Now I say it was completely different. It's not it's not as different as people want to think it is. It's just that it doesn't retain the initial. It's difficult to say. It doesn't retain the initial qualities. I think is probably the right word of this 0.75. And people were pretty unhappy about that. The most puzzling thing to me, though, is why Jagex took this game, developed this part of it in the background, and then didn't release it. That could have caused such less drama than it did simply by removing it. Now, people get very worked up about this, and I think it's probably rightly so, because with calling it classic mode, I think that's probably a little unfair towards the roots of this game. It should have been drafted in as a main mode. Okay, I'm personally the hosted servers thing, it doesn't bother me too much, and I don't think the hosted servers thing will mean a lot unless there is the opportunity to create the game modes like this one you're seeing here. I think it is a real travesty that this particular game mode has not yet been implemented and wasn't implemented from the start. We're playing Babel here, which is basically you have a floating platform, and each team has to build up either side of the map and try and get the intel, which is at the top, and then more importantly make it back down and get into the enemy base. This game mode is a ton of fun, and I don't really understand why this wasn't implemented earlier on. See with the base work that was done in beta, there is a whole load of game modes, and whilst it's fun to come up with other game modes, there is sufficient game modes in beta that you could have not given out the editing tools. I personally, I think they could have brought in the more popular maps and just utilised those, brought them up to date with the OpenGL style that we see in 1.0, brought them in, offered people the chance to play the classic game modes in the classic style, because I think it's fair to say that gameplay wise, Vegas have done a pretty good job of emulating this and bringing this up to date with Classic CTF. Now, the fact that it's limited to Classic CTF is somewhat disappointing, because, like I say, the game modes like this, these should not have been ignored. These are important game modes that create the entire ethos behind the game. Now, it's. I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to have a conflicting point, and one thing that I didn't want to come across as doing was sort of trying to gain fellowship from the guys that played the beta. Those guys have made it abundantly clear that they're not interested in my stuff and the way that I do my videos, and that's fine, because I am very vocal about how I like 1.0. That's not my fault, okay, but because I'm not ranting and raving about the beta and trying to sort of promote the beta at all. It sort of creates that conflict. I am a product of what I found on Steam. Okay, I can't help that. That is just how it is. Now, like I say, this is not an attempt at gaining subscribers or gaining views from people that play the beta. Like I say, their standpoint on me personally and my videos is very clear to see. So what I really wanted to just find out was how the differences are and why people are angry. And I think even with my very limited experience, as you can see here, this is what happens when you find the intel and then you didn't build it properly. You're stuck up on this platform, which is a massive pain in the ass. Okay, so yeah, I think even with my limited experience in the beta, I found that Jagex have not done a bad job, okay? As much as people want to hate Jagex and hate the way they've done things, they haven't done a bad job with the game as it stands. Classic CTF closely resembles this particular style of play, and I think that's why it's very popular as a game mode as well. What they did do though was they managed to alienate an entire community, and that was a real error in my view. If you're going to release a game that already has a very strong beta and a very strong community, you've got to try and at least appease them. And I don't want that to sound condescending either, but it's important that you sort of see that I understand that why you guys are angry, okay? And I think it was Jagex's fault, and I honestly think that playing this has opened my eyes up to how the game should be played, possibly, but I would like to see it drafted in and worked with more. I don't think there's anything more I can say on it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys appreciate this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do, let me know. Thanks again. I've been all Flads. Cheers and goodbye.